first, and then
you go with the legs.
I just picked.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back for another episode of The Whole Bushel on the Real News Network. I'm your host, Eze Jackson. The Whole Bushel is an artist interview show where I sit down with performing artists to discuss issues that matter to them the most, all while eating crabs the way we do here in Baltimore, Maryland. Today, joining me, my guests are good friends of mine. Beatboxer extraordinaire, Shodekeh is in the house. And we got rapper, songwriter, and videographer Mike Evenn sitting with us. What's going on, y'all?
I'm good, man. I'm a big fan of the show, too. I'm happy to be here, bro.
Thanks, bro. Thanks, man.
No doubt.
Good to have you on. Yeah, man. So I wanted to, earlier we were talking a little bit. I want to start off talking about hip-hop culture as it relates to violence. Right now we are going through, a period in Baltimore. We have a very high murder rate, historically high murder rate. We get a bad rap in hip hop or in rap music for its violent culture. And I just want to kind of talk about that. Why do you think that is? Where does it come from? Where do you see us going with it?
What's the context of that accusation,
Mm-hmm.
You take an artist, take artists from the genre of the blues or from country music or from heavy metal or rock and roll as it falls into a white default culture. Is it labeled as being violent or music that catalyzes or incites violence?
Mm-hmm.
It gets a different rap, and why is that? So, to me, hip-hop is the modern-day blues. It's the modern-day gospel of the streets, of the urban areas of the country, of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
These artists, they're crying out more than they're, making any claims to incite violence. So for me, the context is always first and foremost of the conversation. And then beyond that, maybe we can move the conversation beyond that. I know even within hip hop, artists claim that, like when J. Rue was taking shots at Biggie and artist Bad Boy,
So all that big Willie talk, hop you up, playing yourself.
Claiming that they were somewhat responsible. Now, he has an argument, it's interesting to consider, but still beyond that, what's the context of that conversation, of the dialogue between these different artists who are beefing with each other in the studio for different reasons, so.
Yeah, and that you're referencing J. Rue the Damager, who was very direct in the early 90s about calling out, quote-unquote, commercial rappers for their kind of, promoting the violence or sensationalism of misogyny and things like that. He's one of the first, I think, rappers that were on kind of in mainstream rotation that was kind of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
To piggyback on what you said, I never like it when people tend to want to blame hip-hop for the reason why, for violence and whatnot, because first of all, hip-hop is not the only media platform that portrays violence. Nobody blames movies or TV shows and things of that sort that portray the same thing, but for some reason they don't get the same type of heat as hip-hop music gets. And in addition to that, I think that music is supposed to be about expression. So if a person is growing up in the inner city and they're surrounded by violence, whether they're participating in it or they're a victim to it, they have friends who fallen victim to it, people are painting pictures of whatever their atmosphere is and whatever, their reality is. So as an artist, you can't necessarily fault an artist for portraying whatever it is they portray. One of the phrases that J. Cole said that I'm a big fan of is, there's no right or wrong, there's a song, and I believe that to a degree. A person who's expressing themselves should have the opportunity to express however they feel. I always kind of feel like it's more responsibility on the fact that a particular type of hip-hop is what's promoted more than anything else, because it's not like hip-hop is only talking about violence. Hip-hop talks about love, hip-hop can be political, hip-hop can be socially conscious, hip-hop can be about a bunch of things, but they zone in on this one aspect of hip-hop, and that's the one that we hear on the radio all day long, that when festivals come up, you have these certain type of artists who are performing, and I don't fault anybody for however it is they express themselves, but how about you have the media be a little bit more balanced about what you portray and what you allow kids to listen to, and maybe it might be, you know, it's a different conversation at that point.
So you're about the corporate platform, and that needs to be criticized, that needs to be deconstructed. But hip hop is so much more diverse than people give it credit for.
Absolutely.
The same way jazz is, and rock and roll. I mean, these are incredibly diverse African American, born and bred cultures, and ways of expressing music that are incredibly diverse. So to attack one genre, it's like attacking one nation, you know, without putting the conversation into the proper context.
we're talking about violence, and you talked in some of your songs, and I think, you know, many of us do, about homeboys we've lost to violence. How does that affect your writing and just your overall messaging and who you are as an artist?
It's funny. I think all of us. We were talking about this earlier today. I think all of us, when we're younger, we kind of like. I think as an artist, you kind of mimic what you see and what you like until you kind of like, you know, like younger. I was always a big Nas fan. I thought Eminem was crazy dope. I got into Kanye like early on. So you find yourself when you're writing or you're making music, you kind of like style your cadence and your rhyme scheme. You mirror people who you like until you kind of find your own flow. So, you know, when you're making music and you're rapping, there's some things that are like, if you watch battle rap is very heavy about like what you're gonna do to your opponent and you know, things of that sort. And it's because it's so common, it can be second nature to just casually say certain things.
I aim a clip at your damn head, murder your damn wig. Nigga, you were playing with girlies. That's weird because your hair looks like a ram's head.
But as you start growing up and you start seeing certain people, you know what I mean, disappearing around you, it kind of affects the way you listen to music. And of course, as an artist, it's going to come out in like the music you make. To jump back to what I was saying earlier about you know, violence in music. Violence is violence. It's like crime is one of the oldest pastimes ever. It's not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when it comes to like, you want to hear music that's real and it's true, but I had a younger brother who was really close to me. His name is Delroy, rest in peace. And like, you know, he was one of them kind of kids that wasn't for him. You know what I mean? And he was never running around in the street. He was very quiet, kept to himself, played football. You know, so when he lost his life to senseless violence, now when I hear certain music now, I can listen to it to a certain point if it makes sense. But when music is kind of like, when it's reckless and I'll just shoot any nigga and blah, 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 it took a minute for me to kind of internalize that. At the same time, you know, countries fight wars. You know, sometimes you have to use violence to protect yourself and your family. You know, it's all about the context in which you're saying a thing and how you're interpreting it.
Yeah. Oh. Look. Ease. Ease. Yeah. Yeah. Look. Mama, I don't wanna kill a man. You know I've always been a simple man. Life getting so complicated, got me changing to a different man. All I wanna do is make it out. I can feel them trying to take me out. Chew you up and then they spit you out. I've been looking for a different route. All my wisdom I begin to doubt. Was it bullshit all along? Is it really all black and white? Is it such thing as right or wrong? Pressure on me, I got way too much pressure on me. Only fire can make a diamond. Trying to wake up with treasure on me. Speaking of it, I heard it's buried in the desert sand. Flew to Vegas where I met a tan woman, then she took me by the hand, told me that my wish was her command. She too hot to not be a mirage. Still I bought a shot for her because I could tell exactly who she was, trying to find the facts in the facade. God, everybody want a peace of mind. I'm just trying to find a peace of mind. Give me something that'll ease my mind, baby, baby. Jack, ginger, and a squeeze of lime. I don't get a lot of leisure time. Give me something that'll ease my mind, baby. What is trust? What ain't been hiding at? Where can I find it at? A lot of talking, never where I was at. It's always behind my back. Stiff neck and a sore shoulder. The one I'm constantly looking over. I never ice it, but it's getting colder. Paradoxes and paranoia. Call my line. I used to take trips to see my family all the time. Now I argue with Uncle Sam and get aggravated by Father Time. I hate to lie, but what if it's saving lives? Should I remain disguised? Can't decide between Cape and Tigers. I made the fly, but I hate the sky. 3, 6, and 4 nights. I make sure I fuck them all right. And they all say they just want pipe, but they all been trying to get wiped. And they all want to come first, and they always want to come twice. I can't say I don't love them at all, but they all know that ain't my life. I got phony friends and friendly phonies. Whole squad is depending on me. Wild bucks that I hunt alone, cause ain't nobody gon' get it for me. When I'm dying, it's rest in peace. When I get checks and they check for me. So how can I get the best of me when I ain't got that much left of me to go around? And everybody want a peace of mind. I'm just trying to find a peace of mind. Give me something that'll ease my mind, baby, baby. Jack, ginger, and a squeeze of lime. I don't get a lot of leisure time. Give me something that'll ease my mind, baby, baby. Everybody want a piece of mind. Why they let the blind lead the blind? Eyes open, I can see the signs. I've been reading in between the lines. A lot of shit I gotta leave behind. I don't get a lot of leisure time. Give me something that'll ease my mind, baby. Baby. Give me something that'll ease my mind, baby. 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 Baby.
What, do you think I'm a pushover? I've been to prison. Oh, I have. I've been to prison. Prison of drugs, alcohol, and sick thoughts. I used to have sick thoughts. So don't you come in here preaching to me when you're standing over there, and you're standing over there, and I don't know which way is up.
Would you consider yourself a patriot?
You know what's funny? Because I'm a fan of the show. And I've heard this question asked.
Okay.
I should have been prepared. You know what? It was Big Guy, Ill Conscious, and who was the third person?
Jay Royale.
That's who he asked the question to. That's how much of a fan of the show I am. I know who he asked the question to. I would say that I appreciate the fact that I am in America. I think the title patriot is, I think there's another word that, or maybe there is no word. You know, I think that the title patriot is, that's a tough one for me to swallow. But I'm not complaining about being from America. You know, I appreciate the fact that I'm from here, that I have the whatever freedoms that we do have, you know, I appreciate those. But I think that there's still certain things that are going on in the country that I would need to see some change in for me to be able to wave that flag of I'm a patriot. You know what I mean?
Can I please piggyback off what he just said?
Sure.
Yeah, and answer the question for yourself too.
Absolutely. Okay, so would I consider myself a patriot? When I was doing my research at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, right down the street there, regarding the exhibit For Whom It Stands, uncovering as many untold stories of the flag and the national anthem as possible.
Yeah, I remember that.
As a music researcher and curator for that museum, I had to ask myself, do I love this anthem? Do I love this flag? Wait a minute, do I love this country? And my answer was, yeah, but if it wasn't for hip hop, jazz, rock and roll, nope. I wouldn't have no love for this country. And that was just my honest, real answer for myself. And then while ongoing with that music research, I went deeper into the socioeconomic context of being black in this country. So all throughout 2014, I only spent money on black-owned businesses, which again shed even more light on the ideological textures of what it means to be black in this country. And, you know, shopping black in Baltimore, a predominantly black city, is hard as hell. And it just opened my eyes to so much. I mean, it was the equivalent of going back to get a master's. I mean, it was just really eye-opening. And it's still changing my life in ways that I'm understanding to this day.
And how so? Just looking at, is it because you're looking at the economic, does it force you to look deeper at the economic status of black people in America?
Absolutely, yeah. And then how that reflects in the flags that we post and the anthems that we sing, you know? So
the anthems, right now we got like this whole Colin Kaepernick situation.
Right.
And, you know, from a lot of, not just white people, I would say a lot of my comrades, I'm a vet, and you know, a lot of my fellow veterans, very sensitive about not standing up for the national anthem, you know, not you know, saluting the flag and stuff like that. But people don't even, most people don't even know how racist the actual, you know, the lyrics to the national anthem actually are, because we only know the first verse really.
You gotta listen to all four.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I feel like in this country we're kind of asked to take on this blind patriotism. You know what I'm saying? It's like, just because just because we are the land of the free, and you know what I mean, these things you have in place, you should be happy, and you should just shut up, and you know, don't disrespect that flag. Don't you dare disrespect that flag. Don't you better not disrespect that flag. When in all actuality, that flag has been disrespectful to so many people and so many cultures, not even just in this country, around the world. I think it's a topic that I like to bring up a lot of times, especially on the show around patriotism.
I think the question, not to cut you off, I think just real quick, I just think that if somebody from the country was to ask me, you know, do you consider yourself a patriot, I would just say, well, what does the country consider me? You know what I mean? Before I answer the question, right? When I feel clear about how the country considers me, then I can give you a clear answer on if I consider myself a patriot or not. But it's still it's kind of fuzzy. You know what I mean? So
I like that. We can close on that one. Thanks for joining us again for another episode of The Whole Bushel. You can look up these two artists online, follow their music, follow their movements. You can follow us and check us out on therealnews.com. We also have a Facebook page. You go to our Facebook page, The Whole Bushel. You'll see clips of past episodes, upcoming episodes, and more. You can also check us out on YouTube. All right? I'll see y'all next time.